This video describes a web platform for a lot of people to solve big problems together over the internet. There's a separate 4-minute overview you should see first. This is a high-level description of user functionality. We can only glance over the functionality because a mock-up walkthrough could take hours. This video is also a call for passionate people to improve these ideas and build them, and for supporters with a little money to make this happen faster. Is that you? TSIS is the project code name, which means truth is my sword, integrity is my shield. It's even kitschy for Canadian, but the website name is up for grabs. TSIS is a system designed for a lot of people to change the world together. It has 7 user subsystems to provide the functionality to make this happen. Here's a list in order of dependencies. First, identity validation, so we know who people really are and who says what in the system. Second, reputation communities, so we know who has a good reputation and who has something to hide. Third, optimal information sharing, so that we get the best information and the least disinformation, optimized for us rather than for big media owners or anyone else. Fourth, proxy delegation, so that we can delegate our support to people closer to each problem, who can inform us, give us a voice, and lead activism. Fifth, activism support, to bring people together to discuss causes, vote, fund, plan, and organize action. Sixth, democratic accountability, to regain power and transparency over our representatives in government. And seventh, wealth registries, to oversee the extreme wealth that often seems to rule our world in secret. This requires legislation, so it comes last, but the activism and democratic components will make it easier. These 7 subsystems will enable the 99% to solve problems and make changes at global scales. We'll go through them now in more detail from a user perspective. Other videos will go into technical designs, including foundational subsystems. First, identity validation will solve the problem of not knowing who really said something, because people can pretend to be someone else on the internet and say anything they like. We've all heard of hotels and restaurants giving themselves outstanding reviews, or heard of fake news or hoaxes passed off with impunity. These things will be difficult or impossible in TSIS. The rule is that if you don't want to be identified and validated, you can't say anything in TSIS. All user identities will be checked with multiple validations. More validations will increase trust, and therefore the weight in ratings. As an example of validation, users may record a short video of themselves stating their identity, which other users can confirm or deny. All information will identify who says it, endorses it, or forwards it, so that we know who says what. Identity validation is critical because identity integrity is a must for information integrity. Second, reputation communities will solve the problem of not knowing great people from lousy people, because a bad guy can sue you for telling the truth, or worse. Suppose your ex-boss is a crook, but you can't go around telling people, and you know that he's hiring. What happens? Good people lose and bad people win. Ouch. We often can't say bad things about bad people, but we can create a community in which we all agree it's okay to be more open and honest about one another. Let's call this a reputation community. If members can speak frankly about other members in a large enough community, it becomes much safer to trust them. We only need an agreement to define what is okay to say or not and how we resolve disputes. For example, disputes can go through fast, simple binding arbitration to avoid the courts. A web page will host the community and its agreement where others can find it. TSIS can support different reputation communities with different agreements for different circumstances, such as countries, religions, or industries. This will decide itself because anyone can create a reputation community, but only a few will grow. Accepting an agreement and joining a community will be a declaration of integrity to the other members. This could be a big advantage if other people feel safer dealing with you. Reputation communities might someday change how people operate. Third, there's far too much information on the internet, and only some of it is worth your time, given your interests, the quality of the information, and the disinformation out there. Optimal information sharing will seek to answer one question. What's the best thing for me to look at right now? TSIS will select and sort the best information according to your criteria, such as your interest levels in feeds and topics, your past ratings, the ratings predicted by information providers, and so forth. It can also filter information from users without enough identity validation for your tastes. Based on your reading choices and ratings, TSIS will be able to recommend adjustments to your criteria, or tune them automatically within limits you can set. This flexibility is important for a strong competition among feeds. Any user or group will be able to create a feed that they think will serve an audience. It may be public or permissioned, and it may be free or paid. TSIS will support age and audience restrictions, and so on. Some feeds may be large and general, like a news website. Some may be small and focused, like a blog. Some may be tuned for a smart TV, similar to a TV channel. And for every feed, there'll be a critique feed that anyone can publish to. Feeds can carry almost anything a provider chooses. The items on a feed can be HTML, documents, videos, or any other media. HTML can also reference other items, effectively creating a dynamic website inside a feed. Items may come from users, from other feeds, or from outside sources, according to their terms. Every item will trace back to whoever endorsed, created, or forwarded it. Feed providers will assess items to adjust topic tags and predict aspects of the user experience, such as how long it takes to view the item and how important users will find it. Providers might also add commentary or criticism to items, or highlight subsections. If providers do all this well, their feed should get high ratings, which is better for them and for you. You'll be able to rate items for value, a much more useful measure than like. You may also flag mismatched topics, strong bias, and other issues. Overall ratings will be public to acknowledge good items and good feeds, and to help others find them. TSIS will strive to provide financial incentives based on ratings, to reward people who source good information, but also reward people who find flaws in it. At some point, someone with great ratings from enough people should be able to make a good living. This money may come partly from advertising, but users will have to pay for some content, and TSIS will actively support great people getting paid for great work. Note that advertising will be traced and rated and critiqued like any other item in the system. With feedback and incentives, optimal information sharing can maximize useful information, almost eliminate disinformation, and match your priorities. Next, we all have too many issues to face alone. We need a way to delegate a range of issues to other people acting as proxies for us, to keep a close eye on those issues and speak for us. Such a proxy should also alert us when necessary and initiate organized action among supporters. Proxy delegation will elicit proxies, beginning at a small scale and encouraging them to form hierarchies to match bigger issues. You might think of TSIS as trying to lift up the best people to the top, which we'll call leaders. You can't assess every possible leader for every possible topic, but you can more easily find someone closer at hand who's better suited to represent your voice in a range of topics. Therefore, TSIS will allow you to delegate to a willing proxy that you think can make better choices. That person can then comment and vote with a combined weight of their supporters, who can also review this activity if it occurs on TSIS. Alternately, a proxy can delegate their combined support to someone even better suited, who may have many more supporters, creating a hierarchy. Anyone can change delegations at any time, so this should converge on good leaders over time. Different user segments may converge on different leaders, so there may be several leaders for a topic. However, users will also prefer leaders with more support and clout, so more powerful leaders should naturally emerge for the most common interests. Note that delegation will also be used in reverse, to share information from leaders back to supporters, with each person along the way deciding what's important to share with their supporters. This won't be like our democracies, where we wait 4 years to pick one leader for everything from somebody else's choices, and we have no representation if our pick doesn't get elected. TSIS will be a scalable way to elicit the best leadership for the topics we care about. Fifth, the point of leadership is to lead informed action. There are plenty of systems out there to solve parts of this problem, but the world lacks a platform that integrates all the parts or that works at a global scale. Such a platform can take advantage of TSIS identity validation, information sharing, and proxy delegation. Activism support will offer this functionality for leaders to initiate a cause, to gather activists around it, and to discuss, vote, plan, organize, raise money, initiate action, and lead it effectively. This is the most straightforward component of TSIS, but it's where we'll gain the most power. For instance, exploitive companies take advantage of anyone that doesn't analyze every bill or notice, especially seniors. And a few dollars a month is not worth hours on the phone to many individuals. However, it may be worth millions or even billions of dollars for enough people together. Individuals rarely have a big effect, but a leader with enough supporters is likely to solve issues effectively. In the worst case, a leader can raise funds to hire a great lawyer. TSIS activism support will give power to us and the leadership we choose. Sixth, we have little accountability or transparency from democratic representatives in government. We get one vote every 4 years, which determines the guy at the top, and he decides who else has powers, then tells them all how to vote in our laws. This is lunacy. Democratic accountability will make it far easier to track our representatives and make them answerable to us. We need easy ways to see everything that a representative should be answerable for, such as platforms versus voting histories, positions on new issues, and upcoming legislation. The site will have a web page for each voting district to track this information. Representatives will be urged but not required to maintain it. We also need easy ways to discuss questions and press for answers to the most interesting ones. Validated individuals in the district will have access to a voter forum to discuss questions and issues and to vote on concerns and petitions. Representatives will be motivated to maintain their version of their record and answers to questions because any voter will be able to share their own version as critics. Others will be able to compare these versions side by side and support a critic through proxy delegation to make their voices felt. People that care will be able to make a real difference if other voters agree. Voters can have an impact in days instead of a nearly powerless vote every few years. It's time to bring democracy forward from centuries ago when the world moved slowly and we didn't have this technology. Finally, as much as $600 trillion, or two-thirds of global wealth, belongs to powerful people we know little or nothing about. That enormous wealth hides behind lawyers, trusts, offshore holdings, and private corporations. This wealth can have extraordinary influence on government and media, and it often has a different agenda than the rest of us. We should keep an eye on these huge interests. Wealth registries can support surveillance of these powerful, undemocratic influences in our countries. We only need a law to require that holdings in our country above some large value must be registered to individuals, not to trusts or corporations. Why not? Our homes, cars, and most of our investments are registered somewhere. Why not them? The details of owners might not be public, but a regulator should be able to monitor and investigate extreme or damaging behavior at this scale and know who is responsible. Their wealth is not possible without the stable societies we maintain and the borders we defend. We deserve to know who has a stake in a country the size of a small nation and what they do with it. And hey, if they don't want to register their wealth, why should we? We need systems to match our individual capabilities to the scale of the world. We need to know who people really are and who said what, share reputations, get optimal information, delegate to great leadership, take united action, regain our democracies, and keep an eye on extreme wealth. If we have these systems, the 99% has a chance to stand up to the 1% instead of just making noise. TSIS needs a passionate community to refine these ideas and build a proof of concept. Then we can build a scalable foundation and incrementally add functionality, testing with users in the real world. Meanwhile, we can raise money as we go, but the more we raise, the faster we go, which tends to snowball. You can make an investment in time or money to choose a future for yourself and for our children. Do you want to create something the world will remember? It's coming.